Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Social Work to Wealth podcast. I'm Taylor, and I'm here with my co host, Faith. And today we're going to be talking about money. Well, we're mostly going to be talking about money in almost every episode. So
Yes,
let's get
yes.
this straight. But
Mm.
we're going to be talking about our debt journeys, debt numbers, salaries. This is the episode where we're going to be vulnerable about
Mhm.
our personal journeys because we want other social workers to come on and be vulnerable with us, and for just this to be a community where we share openly. That's what this is all about, is being transparent about money and kind of breaking through the taboo-ness of talking about money, which is extra
Mhm.
taboo in
Yes.
social work, as
Yes, it
we
is.
all know. So we're gonna get into the nitty gritty about that, and then we're gonna end with talking about money messages that we've received through social work and why they're BS, essentially. So
Mhm.
we're gonna
Mhm.
start with Faith
Okay.
and your money
Yeah.
journey. Where should we
Yeah.
begin? Where do you want to begin?
I think I'll just start with when I ended my undergrad, with my bachelor's, because I think that's when I first started experiencing debt, as most people do. So when I graduated from Elmhurst College in Illinois, a small liberal arts school, no one really knows where that is, but that's okay. And actually, technically now it's Elmhurst University. So, we got a little upgrade with our name there. But the point
Nice.
is, when I graduated, like many people, I had student loan debt and I was responsible for paying that back. Like, I don't have a safety net, so that is something I was taking on. And I honestly didn't know how I was going to do that. I really just had the perspective this is going to be something I'm going to be paying off for like the next 30 years. I don't know. It just felt pretty
Like when you
awful.
graduated.
When I graduated with my
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's, it was like get a job as quickly as possible because these loans are going to kick in the next 6 months. And like,
Oh, that's so
I didn't
stressful.
really have a plan. I just need to make my payments, right? It wasn't at that point a conscious thought um, that I was going to have a plan to pay off my debt. It was just survive, basically,
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
that point. So for me at that point, I'll be real raw. Here we go with the numbers.
Here we go. Let's
I
get into it.
I had when I graduated about $40,000 in debt for my undergrad. It was about $10,000 per year, but then I also had a Parent Plus loan, which a lot of people have, which was like
Mm-hmm.
another $3,000. So that was probably, what is that, like $44,000 in debt. And then I also had my car loan. So that was another, I think, 10,000. So then what is that, like
Mm-hmm.
$54,000 worth of debt? And it's just me, right? At that point, I'm not married. I don't have another income. It's just me. And so I just remember feeling really, really overwhelmed, not sure what to do, just make your payments, get a job as soon as possible. So my first job out of college paid. I was working for a church and I made $30,000 a year. So not a lot for 50, 50 plus $1,000 in debt.
What year
And
was that?
that was in that's a great 2012. I
Okay.
graduated with my undergrad in 2012.
Okay.
So I remember just I could make my rent, I could make my car payment, and I could make my loan payment, and that was like it. Right? I didn't have much
Mm-hmm.
after that. So much wiggle room. So I did that for about 3 years ish. I was working for churches in children's ministry and decided that was not for me. I ended up getting married, moved to Wisconsin because my husband was finishing his PhD, and I started working for the Wisconsin Credit Union League, which I shared in the first episode. And at that job, I made 35,000. So still barely making ends meet. My husband, he was getting his PhD. He made like 20,000 a year. So we were like rice and beans. Like
Mm.
we didn't go out. We were just we're just surviving. And so at that point, I was just making my regular payments. It wasn't like I was paying more on my loans or I was making any dent in my loans at all. So I ended up realizing through, well, I was living in Wisconsin, that I want to go back to grad school and I want to get my master's. And a big part of that was I can't take on any more debt because I can't afford it. Like, I can't
Yeah.
afford it. So if I'm going to get my master's, I have to do this in a way that is actually going to um, be considerate of all this debt. So I saved for the first year and I made sure to live in Wisconsin for a year so I could get residency, right?
Mm.
Because then your tuition is much more affordable if you can get residency in the state. And Wisconsin has a 1 year rule. You have to live there for a year and then you can apply and get, what is that? Like, your tuition is the
In
state
state.
tuition.
Yeah.
In-state tuition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. So that was key for me because then my grad program was 20 grand. It was 10,000 a year.
Dude, it was 10,000 a year? Oh
Mm-hmm.
my
Like
gosh.
11,000 a year.
That's
And
wild
so,
coming from someone who was out of state.
uh-huh. So that's my first little tip is like, if you want to go to grad school, live in the state for a year or whatever the requirements are for that state that you're really interested in, and then apply to the state and get in-state tuition because it's a lot more affordable.
Oh
And
my
Wisconsin has
gosh.
a state statute that they have to do that. Like, it's regulated by the state. They have to offer affordable education to their residents.
Did you save
So,
up $20,000?
no, I had saved up about 2/3 of what I needed. So I saved 16,000. So I was still short for my second year. So I was like, okay, I can make it through the first year. I can pay for half of the second year. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for that last amount. And my husband and I had talked about it extensively, and he's like, just go for it. We'll figure it out. So my whole goal was no more debt, no more debt, right? That's my whole goal. So I worked all the way when I was in grad school. I worked a job. I worked as an admissions counselor, and then I worked for what's called the People Program at UW-Madison. And they had my goal, my second year was to get an assistantship or some sort of way
Mm-hmm.
that my second year could be paid for and I could have a stipend. And I got one, which was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So I ended up working for the People Program, and I just did after school programming for underprivileged kids in Wisconsin 2 days a week. And we did some like tutoring and some educational programs for them. And the People Program paid for the second year of my master's and gave me a living stipend. So that was huge for me.
Oh, wow. So you didn't even have to use your own money to pay for part of
No,
the second
no.
year.
So I
Oh.
could save that part, and we used that to pay off the car loan. So one of the things we did was that rolling debt concept. You pay the highest interest first on your loans, and then you maybe I'll get into that another time, the rolling
Mm-hmm.
debt kind of
The
approach. So we use that strategy, which is like my loan payments, let's say, were $500. Even though I paid off a certain amount of that loan, I keep paying $500 so that you're always paying that amount each month, and it's going towards the highest interest rate loan, and then you snowball it down. So we can get into the details of that another time. But the point is, once I graduated my master's, I still had, what did I have? We had paid down the loans a little bit, but not much. And so I
mm-hmm.
still had, we ended up moving to Switzerland. And when we moved to Switzerland, I still had about $37,000 left in loans.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, my salary when I was working for the credit union was 35,000, and then it was 20,000 in grad school the first year. Second year is 25. That was my living stipend, and they paid for my tuition. And then my first year in Switzerland, it was $90,000. So
Oh, she
it
made a big
jumped.
jump. Oh
It
my
jumped
gosh.
massively. And then my last 3 years, it was over $100,000 I was making per year. And so within the first 2 years of living in Switzerland, I paid off the $37,000 that I had left. And
Mm-hmm.
that was, getting to the pandemic time where we also didn't have the interest. Like, the interest was cut, and a lot of
Mm.
people stopped
You
paying.
had federal loans?
I had federal. So the interest rate, because I'd paid off my Parent Plus loan first, because that had the highest interest rate and it's private, right? So I think that's private. Is Parent Plus loan private? I'm pretty sure it
Not
is.
all of them. My
Okay.
mom had a Parent Plus loan that was federal.
Okay, maybe mine was federal then too. I'm not sure. So then my goal, like, once I started to actually have a livable wage and make some decent money, my goal was to pay off my loans first, and then I would start saving towards other things, like we wanted to get a house and things like that. Um, So I did that and I kept paying during the pandemic so that I
Mm-hmm.
had no interest on them. And yeah, by 31, I was debt free. So I am now debt free. I don't have any. And I remember the physical weight being lifted off of me when I finally got those loans paid off. It was awesome. It was so awesome because you just feel so free and you feel so, um, yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
no, definitely.
free, free.
Right. I know.
So
That's it. It feels like
that's
such a
it.
burden.
So it took me about 10 years to pay off all of my debt.
And it was
And the
about like
only reason,
55,
yeah, about
55,000.
55,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why I really was able to do it is because I actually made
Increased your income.
increase my income. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sometimes it's just that simple, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
there's only so much that you can cut sometimes if you're
mm-hmm,
making such a low salary. It's like,
mm-hmm.
people say, I feel like in the general personal finance, it's like, well, just cut your expenses and,
Yep.
stop eating out and stop buying coffees. And it's like, okay, I've done that.
Yeah,
Now,
that's,
now what? Like I've cut
mm-hmm,
all that I can cut. Sometimes you
mm-hmm,
just gotta make more
mm-hmm.
money.
Well, yeah, you have to make more money. And again, in another episode, we could get into like how I worked abroad, but really it's about increasing your salary and to the point where you can live and pay off your loans. Like you can't
Mhm.
just, sometimes it's one or the other, right? So yeah, so that's my debt kind of
Yeah.
journey.
I want to
Um,
get
yeah.
into I think this is the time to get into like your strategy for paying that debt off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like let's do it.
So my strategy was, and okay, so I have mixed feelings now about this, but when my husband and I got married, we took a financial class together. So we were really aligned on together on what our money was going to go towards. And I think that that's really important if you're in a relationship with somebody, to be aligned on your financial goals. So I think it
Yeah,
was
that's ideal.
possible. It's ideal.
Mhm.
I think it was possible for me to make these strides with my loans because my spouse was supportive of it and aligned with it and it was willing to eat beans and rice. so, so we could pay more on the debt, right? So we
Mhm.
could pay more. So the part that I have mixed feelings about is that we took a class called Financial Peace with David Ramsey. Not a huge fan of David Ramsey now,
No,
but
no, we do
no,
not subscribe to the
no, we
Dave
do not.
Ramsey
We do not.
values. I
No.
know people say people that don't follow him anymore and used to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he's just the intro to personal finance
Yeah.
for whatever reason. He's big and he's everywhere, and so I get it. He
Yeah.
gets people into the world, so I'll give him that. But he, like I said last episode, like this community, this podcast, like we're not guilting, we're not shaming. That is completely the opposite of what he does. So I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. But we took his class
Mm-hmm.
because, we did. We were young and we were very much in a different mindset at that time. We have evolved a lot since then. But one of the strategies that they talked about was this snowball kind of
Snowball
strategy,
method,
the
yes.
snowball
Okay, I
method.
forgot they do
And
really like that
so,
one.
yeah. And so it worked for us. And this idea that every dollar has a purpose, which I think, although I don't agree with David Ramsey, I do think that that makes sense. So
Like when you're
making
doing
sure
your budget. Yeah,
doing a budget, right?
yeah.
Doing a budget, making sure every dollar has a purpose, and making goals and committing to being debt free. So that was like really, actually, really good
Mm-hmm.
things. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we took his class, one of the things that I learned was just because, well, to pay off the highest interest rate first. And then also, once that loan is done, so I paid the Parent Plus loan first, right? $3,000, got it done. But once that loan was paid off, I didn't just say, "Oh, cool, now I have 250 bucks for my to use now in my budget for whatever I want." I used that $250 and I applied it to the next loan. So I did not, my loan payment, the amount of money I was giving to my loans never changed no matter how much my loan went down. I wasn't following like, hey, you've paid off this much, so you only owe $300 instead of $500 now. Now, I just kept doing the same amount, which helped me get the loan down faster.
Yeah.
So
And I
that was
know
my
that they,
strategy.
yeah, I know that Dave Ramsey really likes the snowball method because you start with like the lowest amount. I don't know. I mean, I don't, it doesn't sound like this is how you guys
Maybe
actually
I
like
applied it wrong.
did
I
it,
don't
but
know.
like
That's
typically
how I
it's
did
like
it.
you start with the lowest loan amount. So it's like, say you have all these different loans and one of them's
Mm.
$300. It's like you really try to aggressively pay that one off first because they feel like the success, that feeling of success of paying off one of your
Mm.
loans is
Will be
just gives
rewarding
you
and you're more likely to.
motivation and whatever. And so it's like once you pay off that loan, you still take whatever you were putting towards that loan,
That and you apply
you
to the
put it
next
to the
one.
next one, put it to the next one. So that's kind of why they
Yeah.
call it the snowball. But that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah. So
is
I
that
did
like what you
that.
guys carried? Is that the strategy you continue to use even when you're in Switzerland?
Yeah. In Switzerland, I didn't need to do that because I just was making so much more that I just made huge payments, big chunks. So
Mm-hmm.
I just paid it off real fast when I was in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, when I felt like I was more tight, when the budget was a lot more tight, I definitely used that strategy. And
Mm-hmm.
then also just I was intentional about saving and not taking on more debt. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing it. I can't do it. I will do whatever I can. I will
Mm-hmm.
work. I'll do whatever I can to not take on more student debt. And that was a
Yeah.
big, big, big piece of it for me. Another really important thing was for me to pay it off. That
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of sense
Why did you
for
want to
me.
pay it off? Like
Well, I didn't want
why was
to.
that even like how did
Yeah.
you even get to that point of being like, okay, I want to pay off this debt? Like what happened? You know what I mean?
I think for me, I don't like owing anyone anything. And it's scary. Debt is scary to me. And I just, from my upbringing, have seen how financial insecurity and debt can be really crippling and destabilizing and scary. And I don't want to get into that because that's my parents' story, but like I'm the youngest of five and we didn't have much. And so I'm like, I do not want debt. I do not want credit card debt. I can see how that is just so suffocating and creates tension and creates so many problems. And so I just was really motivated to not have to, I don't want to have to deal with that and wanting to get out from underneath that. Looking back, I probably wouldn't have gone to Elmhurst College. I probably, if I could have redid it, I wouldn't have gone there. I would have picked a state school and gotten
Mm,
a different tuition. And state schools are great. So, but I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. So, just like a lot of people, it's like
just
you
like
get
many of
in, you're
us.
excited, you go
Yeah.
for it. So, for me, it was I see that as scary and it holds you back in life, and I didn't want the stress in my life. So, it was like, I'm going to push now and endure this discomfort now so that in the long term, I can have what I want in life, which is to be free from this. So,
Yeah. You feel like I during our journey right now, which
mm-hmm.
I'll get into in a bit, but
Yeah,
just
I want
like
to hear your journey
we're
next. Yeah.
trying to enjoy our lives while we're doing it. Do you feel like you were
Mm-hmm.
doing that or were you were just like we're
No.
miserable, we're eating rice and beans, like
We took the
we're paying
miserable route.
you
So for us, I feel like my husband was making so little because he was a PhD student, so he got a living stipend also, but it was like 20 grand a year, and I was making so little that there was we were already kind of in this mindset of like we're in grad school, we have to live on a budget, it's going to be
mm,
rice and beans, and so that mindset was already like there. So it was just easier, I don't know, for us as long as we were on the same page. We went that route.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
totally.
really know if it was a conscious thought or just it just was what it was
Totally. And
and
that's
we had
like
to just do it.
That's the Dave Ramsey way, right? Like
Mhm.
you're kind of miserable. You eat. I mean, that's his
Mhm.
like eat rice and beans. But did you guys like actually eat rice and beans or like
Mhm.
you did? Like legitimately you
Well, we
ate rice.
like we like rice and beans, so like we would make it like, for food. But no, we weren't like only eating rice and beans. Like we were we went out with friends, we would get
Mm-hmm.
drinks, we would eat out and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay.
But we
Okay.
we weren't going on any like vacations or anything. But even if we,
Yeah,
what I
that's
guess
fair.
my point is, even if we wanted to, we would have never been able to afford that.
Yeah.
There was no way
Yeah.
making 40 grand together in grad school
Yeah.
means we would be able to go on a vacation. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just, you're in school, it consumes your whole life anyways. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it was definitely just bunker down. Switzerland, totally different. We didn't need to do that. We didn't need to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because he was getting paid, you were getting
Mm-hmm.
paid, a
Mm-hmm.
really good salary. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
now, as a private practice practitioner, making over
Yeah.
100K.
Yeah. Definitely. We can get into, maybe we'll do salary progressions next, but I'm curious, what does your debt journey look like? Where you guys are at? Um,
Yeah,
how it
so let
worked for
me
you?
just even bring it up right now. So right now, as you know, as of the last time I updated this was I really keep like a detailed kind of tracker of our debt.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because I've been sharing it on social media, so it's been helpful for me. But as of last month, we have $212,000 still
Mm-hmm.
of debt. When we started this whole journey, this
Mm-hmm.
was in, you know, beginning of January 2022. When I was like, okay, wow, people are retiring early, they're paying off their debt, like they're doing things they don't have to, people aren't living with this debt until they die. It's possible. So I took inventory of our debt. We had $277,000 of debt, and 127 of that was mine from undergrad. I was out of state.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it all started. Not really, educated about student loans. I was like, yeah, I'll take out the max, whatever. And so, yeah, I ended, all of my loans are from undergrad. I ended up with
Mm-hmm.
$127,000. And grad school, I thankfully feeling so blessed that I got a scholarship for grad school
Hmm.
and a living stipend. So I don't have any student loans for grad school, and I didn't even like, I applied for this scholarship when I was applying for UW Madison, and I already had, at the time that I got notified, I already had loans like in my account for grad school. Like they kind of told me late, and I remember I got this email. I was at my internship, my first internship with the hospice agency,
Yeah.
and I showed my supervisor. I was like, "Look at this email I just got. Like, apparently, I got this scholarship." And I was like, "Is this
Whoa.
real?" She was like, "I mean, it looks legit, you know." I like emailed back. It was Tracy. I emailed her back and I was like, "Can I talk to you? Can I talk to someone on the phone?" And so I talked to her and she told me, "Yeah, you got this scholarship. It
Mm-hmm.
was a diversity scholarship, and
Mm-hmm.
your whole grad school will be paid for, and you will get a stipend." I had to go to these quarterly meetings, and I was like, "Holy crap." I
Wow,
just like,
Taylor.
it was seriously
What a
nuts. Like,
relief.
it would have been $90,000 like that I was planning on taking out, but honestly, it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
again, out of state, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go to grad school. It's really unfortunate that like we have to do this. We have to take out loans to I mean, we don't have to. You saved, but like,
Mm-hmm.
how am
But
I
the
gonna,
amount I'm saving is so, there's no way I would have been able to save for 90,000. Like,
totally.
that's off the table. That's not happening. That's not
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, it's so unfortunate for us to, we want more education and we have to pay just astronomical amounts of money
Uh-huh.
for to do that. It just uh it's so frustrating. So,
It
anyways,
really is.
that was an amazing opportunity, and just like, yeah. So,
Incredible. Mm-hmm.
I got a stipend. I also, for the VA, I got paid during, I did a summer internship instead of doing it through
That's right.
the
Mm-hmm.
like the whole year. So, I actually didn't get my stipend for the first year, like for that summer in between the first year and second year of grad school, I didn't get my stipend. And so, me like working at the VA for my internship, getting paid was like huge because I wasn't going to have any money.
Wow.
Um, and so, yeah, graduating 2018, I had $127,000 of debt, like all student loans. And then, Brett has student loans from his undergrad, and he's in grad school now. He
Mm.
thankfully also has a full ride scholarship, which is amazing. We had to take out a little bit of money,
Mm.
but when we moved in together, we had to take out a little bit of money for like living expenses. But when we moved in together in 2020, it's like, okay, we have like 200 and something worth of debt, and then we we weren't really like in tune with what we were doing, what we were spending. We had credit cards,
Mhm.
we ended up we ended up opening a home equity line of credit so that we could buy a new fence,
Mm.
which ended up being $16,000 for a new fence, which
Uh,
is
our fence blew
absolute.
down. Our fence blew down in a windstorm the other, I don't know, month, and it was like the quotes were like 8 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand. We ended up just
Seriously.
doing it ourselves. That,
Amazing.
yeah, I could tell you that story another time, but yeah, we ended up doing it ourselves, which was only
Holy moly.
500 bucks. Because yeah, it was like $500 for us to do it.
That's, oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
looking back, the fence, it
You got
looks
to do
great.
it. Yeah,
It
I'm sure
looks
it looks
great.
awesome.
But
Mm-hmm.
this person, oh, that neighbor got a new fence. Oh, that neighbor got a new fence. And
Mm-hmm.
our fence partially was broken. So it was like, okay, this is something that had been recommended to us. Did we
Yeah.
actually need to do it that year? Probably not. I think we did it like early 2022 when we were still kind of, we were looking at
Mm-hmm.
our finances and starting to make
Yeah.
changes, but we honestly really didn't need to do that. So, anyways, fast forward to like July 2022 when I was like taking an inventory of like, okay, we are not taking out any more loans. We had 16,000 for HELOC, we had 100 for a Peloton, and then our furniture, we had about $500 left. And then his student loans totaled to about 133,000, and then my student loans totaled to about 127,000. Writing all that out, whew,
How
was
did you
like,
feel? Yeah, how did you feel when you did
oh,
that?
so hard.
It's so
Just
hard.
it's just a lot of money,
It's a
It's
lot of
like,
money.
oh my gosh, really? And then like just the feelings of regret and
Mm.
guilt, like why did I take out this much loans?
Well, and
Just
people,
ugh,
yeah, that makes sense. And shame. Sometimes people feel shame too, and it's
seriously.
definitely not ours to
It's
hold
not a
shame.
reflection
Uh-uh.
of who
Mm-mm.
you are as a person. Absolutely
Mm-mm.
not. So last year
Yeah, where are you at
we
now?
yeah, so we took out a little bit of loans because Brett had some school things that we needed money for. And
Mm.
then in terms of, we're not paying on his loans. We're only paying on my loans right now because he's in school and they're on deferment. Mine are due.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
and right now we are at 212,000. So we've paid off. I mean, like when I subtract what we had to what we have now, it says we've paid off $47,000. However,
Wow.
because of interest and because of the extra amount that we took out for him,
Mm-hmm.
we've paid off $64,000. But
Mm.
because of interest and some more money that we've had to take out, like, and it looks like we've paid off 47,000, which, okay. So,
That's a
yeah,
lot of money
it's a lot of money.
that you've paid
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. And Brett's been in school for this whole time. So it's mostly been through us saving. He did take a break
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he went to Alaska for a summer, and the money that he made there, because we had been like used to living just on my salary alone, all of that money that he made, we were able to like pay off our debt, put towards
Yeah.
our debt. So right now we're just sitting with only student loans. We paid off all of our like non-consumer our
Mm-hmm.
consumer debt, which is just like credit cards and
Yeah.
furniture and the fence, blah blah blah. So we're just sitting with student loan money right now. I
Cool.
also I applied 2 years ago for a loan repayment program through the
Yes.
state. And so, because I am categorized as a behavioral health worker and I am a part of a underrepresented population as a Black woman,
Mm.
they are giving me money to pay my student loans off, which is amazing. They're giving me like $88,000.
That is so
Nuts!
awesome.
I know.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
So I
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's
That is
this
huge.
I know. It's last year I got money and then this year. So by the time I am done with all of that, I personally will have about 40,000 left, which I started with 127,000. I'm
That's
gonna have
so
about 40,000
impressive.
left.
Like, how does that feel?
Ooh, oh my gosh, it feels amazing.
Amazing. Amazing.
It feels
Amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we'll continue with that, and our goal is to be debt free by 2028. So, or like summer 2028.
I love that goal.
So we got a lot. We still got a lot of work to do, but you know, Brett graduates from grad school next year. He'll be making a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
income, and because we've
Mm-hmm.
been living on my income for the last 4 years, we're pretty confident that like, okay, we can live on my income and just use or whatever, live on his income, live on my income, whatever, and
Yeah.
use our extra money to finish out our debt. We're ready. We're ready
That's
to hit.
awesome.
Yeah. So.
That is so awesome. And having a plan and having, partner who's your teammate and like you're on the same page and pushing towards the goals, all so huge. It's
Mhm.
so good. It's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
No, it feels really good, but it also is
Yeah.
possible because I make $96,000. Like
Hmm.
let's talk about
So let's
that
talk
now.
that.
Let's talk
Salary
about that
progression.
now.
Yeah.
Salary
Yeah.
progression
Yeah.
in social work. So I started my first job, I made $40,000. That was in 2018 as a community mental health social worker.
Mm-hmm.
Like $40,000. How
I
how
don't
how dare you?
How dare you? It's honestly laughable. It's laughable. In 2018. Okay, so to put that in perspective, I guess it was 2015, I was making 35,000 at a credit union. So you have a master's degree, right? You have experience and you're only making $5,000 more than what I was making 4 years before that
Mhm.
time, and I had my bachelor's and I had no experience in the industry. I was just like, I need a job, like, hi, just kind of this. That's disgusting.
It's seriously
It's
ridiculous. Like,
40 grand.
yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And people are
No,
still getting paid that. Like I just brought up the
people are
salary
still
list.
getting paid
I
this.
just brought up the salary list. If you're new to this podcast and this is your first episode, I made a salary
Mm,
list for social workers to submit their salaries so we can, see
yes,
some real social work salaries. So I just brought it up. Right now we have 703 salaries that are on this sheet, which is amazing.
amazing.
And it's unacceptable that I see a $48,000 salary for someone
Mm-mm,
who is
mm-mm.
working in the substance use community. They live in South Carolina. That's ridiculous. I see another one, 43,000
Mm-mm.
living in Virginia. I mean, it's unreal that these are still salaries that are like being offered to people.
Master level. Sometimes, LCSWs also, like, we need to be making significantly more money.
Mhm.
Not just a little bit, significantly more. So, okay, keep going. Salary
Okay,
progression.
so
So you
40
start 40
so I
grand. We're
made
all outraged. We are outraged by
We're
this.
pissed.
Ah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so you're making 40 grand in 2018. This is only,
2018.
that's insane.
I know.
Okay.
And I mean at that time it's like I wasn't saving. I didn't know what I was doing with my money. I had like
No.
a little bit of credit
Could
card
you save?
debt, but it wasn't crazy. I mean, I don't even know. No, I don't think, but I
Mm-mm.
I wasn't really like in tune with my finances at that point. And then fast forward to 2019, I got a job as a hospice social worker. I got offered $56,000.
Okay.
I was feeling good.
Good.
Like, oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
was $16,000 raise. I was like, oh, who
Um,
is she? Then I go buy a new car.
and you're like, wait, I'm not making anything. Mm-hmm.
My payment was like $100 something dollars, so nothing,
Sure.
not terrible. But I did have I had a Mustang. I grew up with a Mustang,
Oh, girl.
and I had it for about what I got it in like 2018. I had it for a little like 10 years at least. And as a hospice social worker, driving around, like I needed a car that had better gas mileage. So I sold the Mustang to one of my friend's parents,
Oh.
and so that helped me like with
I
a down
remember your
payment.
Mustang in grad school. I remember that. I was like, yeah, hell yeah. I was driving my little Honda Civic. I'm like, yeah. It was nice. She was
uh,
red, right? It was
it
red. It was a
was,
red.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got this Honda, and
Good,
I
responsible
remember
choice.
I did. Yes,
Honda.
yes. I still have it.
Yeah.
Still have it.
Oh.
Going on 6 years. No,
Mm-hmm.
5 years. But I actually went to. I brought a pre-approval loan from my credit union because that's what I read
Go to
online.
y'all. Go to a
And
credit union. Please go to credit. We will
mm-hmm,
have a whole episode about credit unions, but go
mm-hmm.
ahead.
Yeah, I brought my
Mm-hmm.
pre-approval from credit union. I had a great interest rate,
Mm.
and they were shocked that I was like prepared with this because, what they're trying to offer is just like scammy and slimy or whatever. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
that's something that I like looking back, I'm like, I didn't need a new car. I could have got a used car, blah blah blah. Like, but
Mm.
it is what it is. So then 2020 I moved. So I got a new job as a hospice social worker because I moved, and then I had to move again. And
Mm.
then I increased my salary by 10K. So then in 2020, September 2020, I started at a hospital, which intense pandemic,
Wow.
like
Wow. Mm.
COVID in the hospital. It was wild, but I got offered $66,650, and
Mm.
that was me making, I want to say, $32 an hour, and they had
Okay.
initially offered me $31, and I negotiated one more dollar.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
before I got the final offer, I had to go and shadow I mean, I didn't have to, but it was like offered, like, do you want to go shadow the social workers and like see if like this would be like a good fit, and if you
Yeah.
like the environment or whatever. And I remember my now good friend Dora, she I was shadowing her, and we were like alone, and she was like, so I make $31, or I don't even remember what she made. She was like, but I make this, you need to negotiate when they offer you, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember going home and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I talked to this girl, Dora, and she was talking to me about money, and it was really awesome. And so, shout
Yes.
out Dora, my
Shout out
bestie.
Dora.
So that was, I loved it. I loved that she did that. So, yeah.
That's what we need to
Anyways,
be doing for each other.
mm-hmm.
So
Giving us
excellent.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, inside scoop. So I was able to
Uh-huh.
negotiate to $32. And then we did some, like, we did some organizing within our department, which we're going to talk about again. I feel like we keep saying that we're going to talk about that in another episode,
I
but
know we
like
do keep saying that, but like we are, y'all. We are. And
there's
there's
just
this
so
amazing
much, there's
story.
just so much to talk about.
Yeah.
But
And there's
yeah,
Taylor has an amazing story of how her whole social work team at a hospital basically advocated for higher salaries.
we did.
It's an amazing story and it worked. You ended up leaving though in the
I did end
process.
up leaving, but I ended
But
with my salary after, I was there for 1 year, so I got a raise and
mm,
whatever. So I ended, my salary
yeah, where'd you
there
end?
was 75,000. That was
Okay.
in 2021. And then January 2022, I started a new job and I was offered 79,000.
Okay.
I was like, okay, 4K, 4K increase. That's cool. I
Mm-hmm.
was wanting to leave anyways and I was excited about the work. And then, so fast forward to a raise, our department. I got into this role at a really good time because our managers were already kind of fighting for like some a salary increase for us. Very different kind of managerial perspective on our salaries compared to my last job. Because my last job, our managers telling us we're
Mm.
replaceable, but this job, my manager's
Ooh.
like, you guys deserve pay. You guys deserve to be paid well. I know
Yeah.
that you have to come to work because you have to because you need to pay your bills and we're all lucky enough to at least be doing something that is like in line with our values, but I think that you need to get paid more. And I was just like, who is this person? She's amazing. So today I make $96,700. So
That's awesome.
that's what we're in.
That's
And I work in the medical field. Like I'm a
field.
medical social worker on the West
Mm-hmm.
Coast. I
Mm-hmm.
understand, and looking at like the salary list of all these other social workers, of all these social workers who've submitted their salaries,
Yeah.
working in hospitals is not always working in the medical field is not always the way to increase your salary because there's some
Mm.
people who are in the south that are like one of those salaries that I read off earlier, 48,000. She works in a hospital. She lives in South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. So definitely depends on like your region and stuff, but I'd say in my experience that West Coast medical social workers
They make more,
make
right?
more money. I
Your
mean,
cost
more.
of living is higher too.
What's more, we do make good salaries. Yeah, our cost of living is higher.
Yeah,
That's very true.
it really is.
So yeah, I think
So, okay.
it was one thing. I was like,
Yeah.
this. I feel like switching jobs. I think that's one thing that's fairly well known is the highest increase in your salary that generally speaking that you will
Yeah.
get is when you switch jobs.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And actually your highest salary increase was when you switched your first job. The
mhm.
$16,000 bump.
Mhm.
40,000 and you switched one, two, three, four times?
I switched.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my one, two. This is my fourth job out of, or
Fourth.
yeah, I switched three times, I guess, because
Three
like,
times, but
yeah.
four jobs. So three
Mhm.
salary, but different salary increases in what, 6 years? Three different social work jobs in the last
Mhm.
6 years since you got your MSOU. So, I mean, yeah,
That's
that's
wild.
probably what it takes is to switch jobs, advocate. I mean, you ended up leaving a job, so to get a higher salary or to advocate for higher salaries. So sometimes it takes quite a bit. It takes too much to.
It's too much.
It's
It's
too much.
exhausting. I mean,
It's
like even when we
exhausting.
were advocating, at my last workplace, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm emailing, this like union rep and I'm like
Mm.
setting up meetings with us like outside of work and it's just and the stress and just like feeling frustrated and like that wears on
Yeah.
you on top of
Yeah.
like the hard work that we all do. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say of just just organize at your job because it's not that easy.
It's not that easy.
Um it's very hard and we were having meetings on meetings with our boss and boss's boss and HR and
Mm.
it was just it was definitely a lot. I am happy to say that it was successful, but it's like it won't always be and sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the energy for that. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go or, have something on the side that's bringing in more income. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
let's hear about your
Yeah.
salaries.
My salaries are a little bit different because I worked abroad. So, when I graduated in 2018 with a master's in social work, took the test, and then we flew to Switzerland as of August. So I graduated in May, June, and then we were in Switzerland in August. So for me, I never worked in the United States as a
Mm,
social worker
you're
earning a really
right.
low salary. So that also
Mm,
contributed massively to
dang,
me being able to pay off my debt.
you're right. Oh my
And
gosh,
my
I forgot about that.
experience as a mental health provider, So when I was in Switzerland, I worked in two capacities. I worked doing private practice, and I also worked in schools, international schools, English speaking international schools, providing mental health therapy, which was kind of a new model for them. They didn't do that there. And so I kind of pitched the idea. And then they brought me on like as part time staff through the school. And then the other side of my work was I worked privately doing mental health therapy. And I'll get in, I know we keep saying this, but we'll do a whole like, can you work as a social worker abroad? The answer is yes. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
But the first year, I made about 90,000 between the two. And then the second year, I probably made, I don't know, these are estimates, like 110,000. And then
Is that
the
US
final,
dollars?
that's Swiss francs. So US dollars would probably be, the Swiss franc is stronger than the US dollar.
Ooh.
So maybe like 130,000.
Wait, I'm gonna do.
I don't really, that's probably way too big of a jump. I don't really know. And it changes all the time, but the Swiss franc is historically stronger than the US dollar by like 10 cents ish. Um, so I don't really know what it was in USD. It was in Swiss francs. So 90 in Swiss francs. And then also like 111, then it was like 120, and then it was like another, it was like 120. So it was over 100,000 for 3 years, and then like 90-ish. And so that really opened up the doors for me to be able to pay off debt.
Hmm.
And I don't know how I would have paid off the debt that I've paid off if I hadn't had a salary that quick out of the gate. After my master's. And that's how in my view, that's how it should be for social workers.
Mm.
They should be able to make a livable wage and pay off their debt, or have some sort of like some sort of payment program where if you're going to work for 2 years for the state, or you're going to work for 2 years in behavioral health, your student loans are taken care of,
Yep.
because the profession is so stressful and the burnout is so high. Like, I really don't believe we'll survive as a profession if we don't pay our workers more. So some might call that dramatic. I don't think that's dramatic. I think that is what it is. So then when I got back to the US, I knew I was going to take a pay cut. And I was really anticipating that. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. But I knew that this was kind of like a dream. You know, my experience was very much not the
The
average
norm.
experience
Yeah.
for a social worker. And so I was like, oh, I had a lot of feelings about it. But I was like, we're going back to the US. And so I worked for 1 year at a clinic, and I made $69,000 at the clinic. This was in 2023.
Wait, that was a private practice clinic? You made
Mm-hmm.
60, what'd you say?
69,000 ish about. And that was me seeing probably 6 more clients than I would have in Switzerland. And I made half of what I made in Switzerland. So I was pretty disappointed. I kind of knew it was going to happen, but then experiencing it is like a totally different. Everybody knows, yeah, it's totally different. So I was really upset about that, and I knew I couldn't maintain that. And so I started my own private practice, and my salary went back up to around where it was in Switzerland. So I'm actually making more, but it went up significantly within the first few months I started. So for me, private practice has also been a way that I've been able to make a livable wage, and I really think that's a livable wage for somebody with their master's. I also have my LCSW, which I added to my. I think you also are an LCSW as well, right, Taylor? Yeah. So historically, when you become an LCSW, you also get paid more.
Yeah, I
Which
did get a little.
helps.
I did get a little pay raise when I was at the hospital when
Mm-hmm.
I passed my exam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was cool.
And so for me, in Switzerland, I never charged insurance. It was all private pay for work. But in the United States, I started charging insurance. So I didn't really know the insurance world. So opening my own private practice after a year of kind of getting an understanding of how insurance works, and because I had my LCSW, now I can charge insurance, where right out the gate, with your master's, if you're not an LCSW, I don't believe you can charge insurance.
Mm.
So there's a lot of barriers still um, for new social workers. So um, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's also, there's two conversations here. I want to say that
Mm-hmm.
part of many of us still need to get paid way more.
Way
That is
more.
a fact. But I also think there's another side of this where there are some of us who are getting paid well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that I've shared recently. Not all social workers are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I hope that that can be maybe a light for
Mm-hmm.
some people of like, social
Mm-hmm.
work isn't, it's not, yeah, you don't,
So I get what you're. Yeah. It's not all terrible and negative and
it's
like
not all
ugh,
terrible.
but it's not where it needs to be by any means. And it should be like, I really feel like you and I are a little bit of the exception, not the rule. And I think that we should have more opportunities for social workers. We should, in general, be making more money. The base pay should be higher. This gets to the next question, which we want to talk about is the messages we've received about making money as social workers
Hmm.
and how that really impacts our view on how we advocate for our pay, how we negotiate our pay, and what we believe we're worth. For example, when I was in this clinic, I was told very clearly, you are not going to be able to make it in private practice. This is not going to work for you. I don't see it working for a social worker. If
Mm.
you were maybe a doctor of psychology, or
Mm.
if you were maybe in psychology, then maybe it would work for you. The truth is, that was holding me back by somebody that it is what it is. But like, the truth is, they were dead wrong. And I knew they were dead wrong because I had talk to people, and I'm not just going to take this one person's opinion. And they were directly benefiting from me financially. So there's that too. So I think at the end of the day, we have options, and we should take those options, and we shouldn't feel badly about it. So the messages we've
Absolutely.
received, right? The
Hmm.
messages we've received. So what are
Yeah,
some messages you've received, Taylor,
messages like
about money and social work?
social workers, you're not in it. You're not in it for the money. We're here to help
Uh-huh.
people.
Mm.
I remember seeing someone saying like, you need to serve your time before you
Oh
make
yeah.
before you I'm sorry, what? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
serving anything. I'm here to get paid for a job that I do. Like, this is how this works. I trade my time for money, and this isn't the military. I'm not serving a
No,
time.
no.
I so I thought that that was just
That's
very
toxic.
toxic. Other
Mm-hmm.
things like, oh, you must not care about your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why is me wanting to make more money, like feel secure financially, me not caring
Mm-hmm.
about the work that I do? No.
Right.
No. I
Right.
can I can feel I can feel both of I can still care for my clients and want to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you only care about money.
Mm-hmm.
No. That's also not it. Like,
No.
they don't have to be
No.
mutually exclusive.
No.
We need to be able to pay our bills. Or another thing, there's no money in social work. I know that that's something that,
We've heard.
we've heard and we
Uh-huh.
feel, which, like we were just saying, is true to an extent, but there also is, like, we are sitting here saying that, like, yeah, we're making decent money. I know people that are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
and there's still room to improve, like,
Mm-hmm.
for the entire profession. But
Mm-hmm.
I know last one I'll say is just professors, people saying like, you're in it, we're in it for the outcome, not the income, which is
Mm.
absolutely bullshit.
Yeah. Let's just
Let
exactly.
me just
Yes,
say
say.
that because I'm in it. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe this is unpopular opinion, popular opinion, whatever. I'm in it for the paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I do
Mm-hmm.
want to help people.
Yeah.
I do want to support, like this. That is why I am also here for that. That's why I do this work. But the only reason why I'm working
Mm-hmm.
period, is because I need to get paid so I
Mm-hmm.
can live.
Mm-hmm.
And like my boss has said, we have to work to survive, and
This is the system we're in.
this is the system we're in. And we are
Mm-hmm.
so lucky that we actually get to do work that aligns with our values
Sure.
and what we want to be doing. Not everyone has that. So I appreciate that, but no, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for the paycheck as well. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Both are true. That's
mhm.
like similarly, I've been told similar messages. I think we both heard that in grad school, and I don't even know who said it. And I loved UW's program. This is not anything against UW's program. I think I was very trained very, very well. Actually, when I compare my training to those living abroad, it was the difference was drastic. I got to be honest. I was like, y'all doing what? Like,
Really?
okay. Yeah, we are trained very, very well, and specifically at UW. I really love their program. But the point is that I really remember getting this message like, you're not in it for the money. And then everybody would laugh and like, oh, yeah, we know, implying y'all gonna do super hard work, you're gonna be burnt out, and how can we do self-care to prevent you from burning out? Well, maybe self-care is giving me more money so that
Yeah.
I don't have to take on 35 clients in a week, and I can actually take on 25 clients in a week, and I can,
Yep.
or 20, and I can do better work, and I can be more prepared, and I'm not going to burn
Mhm.
out, and I can last for 30 years in the profession versus 5 years in the profession. Like,
Mhm.
we're not thinking about that. We're self-care is like, make sure you go do your breathing and take deep breaths because here comes another, really difficult, complex case.
Mm.
And well, why don't we just kind of give people some money so that like we can feel a little bit like I don't have to, because that was part of it is if you're making less, you have to work with more clients, at least in my profession or my sector of the field, right? Like I have to see more clients to
Mhm.
make more money, which burns me out, which makes me a worse, like honestly, not as good of a social worker. And so it all affects the work. It all affects you as a human being. So not in for the money. I don't agree with that at all. And then also, I got this really interesting comment in Switzerland, which was, don't you feel bad making money off of people's mental health? And doesn't that feel unethical to you? And I didn't know how to respond to
Was
that.
that someone who was Swiss?
They were French.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Because Switzerland's just got like all different types of cultures that are kind of mixed in there. But this individual was French and did not know how to respond, I think, because I was so taken back by that. And I still don't really know how I would respond to that question or that comment, but it implies that somehow I'm doing something wrong by charging a fee to talk about or to kind of help treat a mental health disorder. And
Mhm.
it's like this Mother Teresa mindset that we're all supposed to be Mother Teresas and be doing this for free. And I think it's the historical, potentially the historical background in the helping profession, right? In the humanitarian sector, in kind of that area of the field, which is you just volunteer your time and you don't get paid for
Mhm.
this kind of stuff. But like things have evolved and time has moved forward, and like we're not all Mother Teresa's, nor should we be expected to be. And
No.
it's just like a weird kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
no, I totally agree. I think there is that,
Yeah.
like, there's this expectation that if you are in this helping profession, and it's like, it's not all helping professions, right? Oh,
It's
doctors, we're
just,
like, yes, doctors need to be paid more. And,
mhm.
I mean, they get paid well, but, why is it that people, social workers, other
It's
professionals who are supporting people, have lower resources, or who are just underserved in whatever way? Is it that
this.
we they should be getting this work for free? Which I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around that, really.
And that's
It's
part of this podcast is like trying to unpack that, trying to sort that out, trying to make sense of it, and trying to label it as inaccurate. And it's a
mm,
distortion. It's just totally a distortion. And I think, yeah, that's something that needs to be addressed. I also think it's uniquely social work, the social work profession, where this label is this idea that we should be working really, really, really hard for low pay. I don't see that with psychologists as much, or with, and we've talked about that even our grad program, about that difference. You don't
Mm-hmm.
really see it with other helping professions. It's uniquely a social work problem, in my
Mm-hmm.
view. I could totally
Mm-hmm.
be wrong about that,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels uniquely, yeah. Or people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, bless your heart." You get that like reaction when you say you're a social worker, and they're like, "Oh,
I
bless your
know.
heart." There's
I
just
know.
this, and thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Bless my heart.
Okay, bless
Definitely.
my heart, thank you. But at the end of the day, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like, all
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, I really loved I posted this on my Instagram, but Nikki Sanders, she wrote a poem, or an article, I guess,
mm,
called "Is Social Work a Job or a Calling?" And one of her lines there is, social work is a job, a profession, a career. I do not go to work to volunteer. I'm not a missionary. I am not a nun just because I
mm-hmm.
am a social
Yes.
worker. Social workers do not take a vow of poverty. And
Ugh.
I'm just like, oh,
Yes, yes, yes.
so,
Bring
so
her on the
true.
podcast.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's
For
this Mother
sure.
Teresa, like, and that woman was amazing. But, like,
Mm.
at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we
we
need to be
we
paid.
we need to be paid.
End
Yeah.
of the day, we
So
need to be paid. So, okay.
great chat. Thanks, Faith, for being vulnerable. I'm
Of
giving myself a
course.
little
Yeah,
pat.
thanks,
And
Taylor.
we will be back next time with an interview with my friend Sam. She,
Yes.
Sam is great. I want her to share her salary progression, and she's been crushing it with like paying off debt. And
Mm,
I'd love for her to just, share with us kind of like that mind shift, that, what changed for her in terms of feeling in control of her
mm.
money, similarly to what we've talked about today, of just salary progression, like money messages she's
Management.
received in the social work field, how she's managing her money, what's been working for her. So super excited for that episode, and thanks for listening.